The Arrows Up podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings, a flooring company that specializes in epoxy flooring and concrete resurfacing systems. They speak Spanish, they're in the LA area, and they are an amazing company to work with. They have awesome customer service and they give you honest quotes with great work, and I couldn't recommend them enough. So if you use the promo code ArrowsUp, you get a 15% off on your next project. So call them, reach out to them. You can find them on the internet, triumphcoatingsca.com, and you can request a free quote and all that fun stuff. You can follow them on Instagram, triumph_coatings, and they do speak Spanish and they do great work, like I said. So check them out. Promo code ArrowsUp, 15% off your next project. Welcome to the Arrows Up podcast in the year 2025. First podcast of the year. As everyone knows, the beginning of the year is not January 1st. It's the first Monday after New Year's, and that's the 6th. Because, the first few days or whatever are kind of like a feeling out of the year. You have your goals, you set up your mindset for what's ahead, and hopefully it lasts, and hopefully there's consistency, and hopefully you have discipline. And if not, you kind of revert back to who you were, what you were, and nothing happens. But if you want to be a little more optimistic, you say, you know what, I'm going to start. But the first is, kind of weird because you're kind of just coming off the tails of the 31st, depending on how late you stood up and what you did. The second is a little weird too because people are probably still around, your family. If you're out of town, you're probably still out of town. It's typically the first Monday, because you're back home probably. The people that were there to visit are probably gone. You're probably back to work. So this is like the official start of the year. We should have like, whenever the year ends, we should have like free days. that time should be just free days that just, they're kind of just in the air. You getting ready for the start of the new year. And so I wanted to wait till today to record because it's the beginning of the year. And from here on out, the goal is to have 3 of these a week. Sometimes it'll be less, but 3 of them is the goal. 3 of them is what we're shooting for. And 1 of them for sure. And that's how we're going to do it. A lot more stuff coming on Instagram and YouTube and X, if you follow me there, and TikTok, because why not? We're trying to make this happen. So that's what we're going to do. But today, the beginning of the 2025 podcast, we will do football because the regular season is over and the playoffs are on Saturday. And this is when football gets great, but it's also the end of it. And so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to focus a lot on the NFL over the next few weeks or so. And we'll drop some NBA as needed. And Christian Worldview Wednesdays will be back. And my guy David will be back on the Fridays. And we'll see. I want to do one with Harry on college football because he watches college football and I watch very casually too. So a lot of stuff just brewing for the Arrows Up podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me in the year 2025 as I hope you continue to support and be with me on this journey. So thank you. Here is the pod. Here we go. Welcome to the Arizona Podcast, where we don't have any scandals. On this podcast, Fox Sports is going through their craziness of just scandals. No scandals here. We are a scandal-free pod. So, welcome to the show. We will talk a lot of football today because that's who rules the content world in this very moment in terms of sports. The NFL is looming large as the playoffs start on Saturday, and we had a very interesting NFL season, a season marked by the lack of consistency in terms of the number one team. I know that the Lions, because of their win versus the Vikings, are going to be the team that we look at and say the Lions, but the Lions also had games that, because of their defense, and they lost so many players on defense that made you think, I'm not sure about this team. We saw them versus the Niners, where the Niners just were going up and down the field versus them. And so it's a team that their offense is as scary as it gets, but as a team, I wouldn't say they were a great team. I wouldn't say that because they weren't complete. And you look at everybody else in the NFC. You get the Vikings, who 14-3, but great coach, really good offense, really good defensive coach, and a really good scheme. But we all look at them the way we looked at the Vikings a few years ago when they had Kirk Cousins and they won all those games, and we're like, are we sure this team is good? And that's kind of how we look at them. After the game on Sunday, I think a lot of people just looked at Sam Darnold and thought, this is New York Jets Sam Darnold. This is Panthers Sam Darnold. And so, no great team. The Packers, who everybody was blowing smoke up their butt, just don't look all that great. Jordan Love, who got paid a lot of money, is good, but he's not like super, super awesome. It's like there's just something missing. And then, in the West, the Rams won the division, but they're banged up, and they're probably the scariest or the dark horse, but a lot of it is because of McVay, really. Then you get the Eagles, 14-3, and the Eagles are a team that they have made the Super Bowl. Their defense has improved. Their offensive line is really good. Their weapons are really good. But the Eagles just leave you just kind of like, I don't know if I can pick this team. And they leave you with the feeling of just feeling hesitant to pick them and go all in on them. The Commanders are they feel like they're happy to be here. And that's how they feel. The Bucs with Baker feel like a team that might be one and done. Or they'll get in the second round because they got Washington and that's it. And so even in the NFC, that there isn't a team that we are like, man, I don't like. There isn't a team that is a juggernaut. There isn't a team that we are completely sold on. And so I think it's one of those things that in this NFL season, we've learned that there is no real juggernaut. So it takes us to the AFC. The Bills 13-4, and Josh Allen should win MVP. And I know that Lamar is getting a lot of love, but if you watch football this season, it has to be Josh Allen. Doesn't have the weapons that the other guys have. He carried Buffalo in a season where any other team would be in a just transition year. Not Buffalo, not with Josh Allen. And they're 13-4, but you get the feeling that they could get got. In the AFC West, you get the Broncos, who are probably the good bad team. They are the team that, out of the 7 or 6 teams, because Kansas City has the bye, out of the 6 other teams, that's the team you probably would want to play. Besides the Texans and Steelers, because rookie quarterback on the road, just not ready. The Chargers are probably a year away, because you would think in a season or two where they're able to load up on offense and load up on defense, get more talent in there. Harbaugh's gonna just be able to do some things. They're probably a year away. You go to the North and you look at the Steelers, and over the last few games, we saw the Steelers kind of revert back to who we thought they were gonna be. And I know Tomlin gets a lot of love, and I know he's probably the most beloved coach in football besides Andy Reid. But to me, he's just a very average guy who does enough. He does enough, and I think he's an awesome in the locker room with the guys. But as we look at his history, it just does seem like he does enough, and I just don't look at the Steelers and have great confidence. The Ravens, with Lamar Jackson heading into January, we are in a position where he's got to show us. You got to show us. And until he shows us that he can be really good in the playoffs, I'm not going to believe him in the playoffs, and that's where we're at with him. The Texans have stumbled, and if it wasn't because they played in the AFC South, they probably wouldn't be in the playoffs. CJ Stroud has had a bad year. That's brought a lot of questions up, at least for me, whether his first year was more of a fluke. But it's only year 2, so we can't freak out. And we land with the Chiefs, 15-2, but they didn't look great all year. They didn't look convincing, and they somehow got it done, 15-2, because of the Chiefs, and they probably have the best defense in all of football. They still have Patrick Mahomes, which it seems like they just get, they stay in the game, and at the end they take it because they have the best quarterback in football. And so this season, there isn't this team, this juggernaut team that we look at and say, this is the team. And when we look at just how the races of football of the playoffs ended, we saw the Bengals be left out because they didn't win enough games. And we're going to look back at this season when they lost to the Patriots in week 1 and say, what the hell was that? Their 1-point loss to the Bengals. What was that? The 1-point loss to the Chiefs, sorry. What was that? They lose to the Commanders 38-33. And you wonder, what happened there? They should have beat the Ravens. And they didn't. And so there's a few games in there where we are, if those games are switched or flipped, all of a sudden it's a different scenario and Cincinnati's in the playoffs. But they didn't bank those wins, and they're out. The Colts, the same thing. We look at the Dolphins, and the Dolphins find themselves in the same predicament. They didn't win enough games where they were left out at the end because they did too little too late. And typically in other seasons, you get teams that are able to get in at the end. You get teams that are win this and you're in. And we had the Seahawks, the same deal with those guys. And so as we look at the Falcons too, the Falcons ran out of time. And for the first time in a while, we had a season where teams ran out of time and they got hot at the wrong moment, really. And you had other teams that were consistent, and they might not be great, and they might be worse than some of the teams that were left out. But because they were able to bank some wins early, they didn't have to worry about the wins at the end. The Steelers are like this. The Steelers had a good start. The Steelers, in the beginning of the season, for example, started the year winning of the first that they were 3-1 at the end of the first four. And so they started off good, and they banked some wins, some of them with Justin Fields, some of them, and the rest of them with Russell Wilson. But they were able to bank those wins, and that is why they are in the playoffs today. And so the NFL doesn't always work out this way. But this is the type of season we have, and it's why this season, and I said this a few weeks ago, talking about just how this does seem like a very giant C Super Bowl run, where I could see Baker and the Bucs make the Super Bowl. That isn't inconceivable, that they will run the slate and make the Super Bowl. Because I know the Lions had a good performance last week versus the Vikings. I know the defense looked good, but I could see Baker and them just having a shootout versus them. You could definitely see the Chargers heading into Arrowhead and taking the game from them, where Harbaugh's able to work his magic and they're able to just do enough to beat them. And so as we stare at the playoffs, we look behind of what was left in the regular season, and we have to remember there is no great team heading into the playoffs, heading into the playoffs. There isn't a team that is clear cut above everybody else. And if we want to say Detroit, we have to remember Detroit had to play the Vikings and beat the Vikings last game of the season to even get the number 1 seed. Prior to that, the conversation coming out of their game versus the 49ers was, man, the Niners did what they wanted versus them. What are the Vikings going to do? And all these things flip real fast, and our mindset flips real fast. But we have to have a consistent view, because this is the mindset that leads us into every playoffs. Every playoffs, what happened in the regular season, there is pieces of these lessons in the playoffs. And so as we look ahead, we have the Chargers and Texans meeting in the first game Saturday afternoon, and the Texans I think have played this game more than anybody. This should be like the Houston Texans bowl, because this is what they do. This is what if the Texans or anybody from the AFC South makes the playoffs, they automatically get the 1:30 game. They play the Chargers. They're hosting the Chargers. Now, I like DeMeco Ryans. I think I still like CJ Stroud. I don't really like their defense. I don't like their offense as a whole. They're down a few players and a few receivers. The Texans are. And last year, we got the Texans in the first game. They beat the Browns, and the Browns are coming in with a lot of momentum. And Joe Flacco, and oh man, Browns, the Browns had a good defense, and the Texans took care of business. In this matchup, I like the Chargers. I like the Chargers because I like their coach better, and I like their quarterback better. And one of the things we have learned, and when we look at the teams that are in the playoffs, it is teams with coaches that were able to just get it done. And it's why the criticism of a Kyle Shanahan, who I love, for this season is fair. Because Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, is one of the best coaches in football. And the Niners had a really, really rough year. and they dealt with a lot of injuries to key players. But I think the Niners they were too loyal to their stuff. I think they didn't make the aggressive moves in games that they should have. And they didn't make the roster moves to get them to win. Someone like Jake Moody on a 49er team shouldn't be on the Niners after all of his misses. The Niners never Cup 8. When the special teams was a mess, the Niners never addressed it. And I think heading into next season it'll be different, but it's why for this season the criticism of Kyle Shanahan is very fair, because you look at the coaches that are representing these teams and they all figured out a way. And so even though the Texans are at home, and even though the Texans are a little more experienced, I trust Harbaugh more than I trust DeMeco Ryans. And the way the Chargers have been playing over the last few weeks, I think they can go in there and win a game that's ugly. And I trust the Chargers to play cleaner football. And CJ Stroud has looked really bad over the last few weeks. And just all season long, he just hasn't been the guy from last year. And even if you just look at his stats, he throws for over 4,000 yards last year. He's at 3,700 this season. Throws 23 touchdowns last year. Throws 20 this year. He had 5 interceptions last season. He had 12 this year. So you look at just his team and you look at his play, and that's not just his team. And it is a guy that's regressed, and maybe it's the second year, the sophomore slump, and maybe that's what it is. But I just don't like how reliant they are on Joe Mixon. I don't like that that they just aren't able to get stops after stops on defense. And I don't like that CJ Stroud just hasn't been able to elevate his play and his team over the course of the year. On the other side, we get the Chargers, and the Chargers who, under Harbaugh, have just won games because that's what Jim Harbaugh does. He just wins. And the Chargers over the last few weeks are coming in with momentum. They're coming in with a good mindset. It helps that they played the Patriots and the Raiders. But they have the confidence in themselves to play their brand of football. And when you get to the playoffs, the question becomes, can you play your brand of football, and can you impose your brand of football on somebody else? And I don't think the Texans can impose their brand of football on the Chargers, and I definitely think the Chargers can impose their brand of football on the Texans. And that's where we're at. Second game of the NFL wild card. We have Steelers-Ravens. Third time we're getting this game. And the last few meetings, so these teams met on November 17th. The Steelers won that one. And they met on Saturday. They met the 21st, not Saturday. And they lost that one. The Steelers lost that one 34-17 in Baltimore. This one in Baltimore. And this one is, tough because it's division rivals, so you kind of throw a lot of stuff away. And I know that the questions of Lamar Jackson are very real. But he has won playoff games, and typically the first round he's typically fine. The question then becomes, can the Steelers, whose defense hasn't been as good as of late, and they've kind of looked like they're kind of just slowing down, can that defense be nasty for one game? Can they get to Lamar? Who Lamar, prior to his win, had struggled mightily. against the Steelers. Can they make it tough on him? Can they slow down the Ravens and force this to be a very ugly game where the Ravens and Lamar has to make plays with his arm over and over again? Because one thing we've learned about the Ravens, especially Lamar's Ravens, is that they are a front runner team. And if they are up by 10, they're dancing and they're celebrating and everything looks great and they feel unbeatable. But if things are tight and they got to make play after play and they got to make stop and they got to execute over and over and over again, we see there's lapses in their concentration. And so for the Steelers, the question is not so much whether Pickens is going to remember to catch, because he was awful versus the Bengals. But it's on that defense, because if the defense for the Steelers is able to give Lamar Jackson trouble like they have, then the Steelers have a great chance of winning this game. Because if it comes down to the kickers, and I don't remember the last time we were able to even say this, but I trust Boswell more so than I trust our guy in Baltimore. And the last time we said that we trust somebody else besides Justin Tucker, it's been a really long time, but that's where we're at with Justin Tucker in this season and Boswell this season. So I think Baltimore wins this because I just think they have the firepower, and I don't like how the Steelers' defense has looked. I don't like the way Russ has looked as well, as he has looked more like Denver Russ than early, a few weeks ago Steelers Russ. And they're so reliant on George Pickens that once you get to the playoffs, you would think that Baltimore's just going to take Pickens away and force the Steelers to do something else. And if you take away Pickens from the Steeler offense, I don't think you have much else. And so I'm going Ravens. Sunday we get three games. We get Broncos, Bills, and I like the Bills, not the Broncos. I like the Bills because I think the Bills are going to be able to get what they want when they want versus the Broncos. And I know they have a good defense and they're opportunistic and they create turnovers and they get pressure, and I get all that. But I trust Josh Allen, and that's what this pick is. I trust Josh Allen over Bo Nix, who Bo Nix has been good. He's in a dummy-proof offense, and he still makes throws that makes that leave you like, no, don't throw it there. And I like the Bills at home versus a Broncos team that, like the Chargers, is probably a year away from being a real contender in the AFC. We get Packers-Eagles. These two teams met in Brazil to start the season, and now they meet at the Link in Philadelphia on Sunday afternoon. I don't like how the Packers have played. I don't like how Jordan Love has played. It's a team that loses Christian Watson today, torn ACL. How much does that impact them? I'm not sure, because he's somebody that's been in and out of their lineup all year long. This is going to come down to the quarterbacks, and both have been kind of struggling and dealing with injuries. But if the Eagles are able to get Jalen Hurts, who hasn't played because of the concussion, and he's able to clear that and get on the field, I like the Eagles, because I think offensively they will be able to put enough pressure on that defense of the Packers, who everybody told us they were going to be good. They're not that good. Teams can move the ball on the Packers easily, and I like the Eagles to move the ball, run the ball, pass the ball, do whatever they want on offense, and I just don't see enough resistance from the Packers defensively. Now, on the other side, I do like the Eagles' defense, and I think that they'll be able to come up with turnovers, as Jordan Love has been giving the ball away a little bit over the last few weeks. So I like the Eagles in that game, where it's one of the few matchups where I may like the coach for the other side more. I like Matt LaFleur more than I do Sirianni. I think LaFleur is a great coach. I just think that the Eagles have enough problems that they can pose for the Packers to overcome the coaching disparity. And I don't know what LaFleur can do to limit the amount of pressure that the offense of the Eagles is going to put on the defense of the Packers. Because this is where football kind of becomes an easy sport. And we can overcomplicate it, but at the end, it becomes, can they stop Saquon? And if the answer is yes, how? Because we've looked at this Packers team, and defensively, they have just not fared well. Yes, not counting yesterday because it was against the Bears, but we look at their game versus the Vikings, who they were up. The Vikings were up most of the game, and I know the Packers made a comeback, but a lot of it is because the Vikings were also ahead, and that's what happens. But the Packers were not able to stop Sam Darnold in that game at all. And I think Jalen Hurts is better. I don't think I'm crazy in saying that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. You look at the game versus the Lions, and the Lions moved the ball on them as well very easily. And so when we look at the teams that have had good offenses and how they fared against them, teams have moved the ball against them. The Texans moved the ball against them. The Rams. So I just think it's one of these teams that their defense isn't as good, and they're going to be on the road, and they're facing up a team that has the weapons on defense to give them all the trouble. So I like the Eagles in that game. The Sunday night game, Commanders versus Bucks, in a game that features the Commanders in the playoffs for the first time in a while. Jaden Daniels, who's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, taking his team to Tampa Bay. And the Commanders have won games in just dramatic fashion throughout this season. They are a great story. It's great for the city of Washington and Maryland and everybody else, and everybody that the other fans that root for them. And it's a great story. And they're going up against another good story in Baker Mayfield, who has found his home in Tampa Bay. And he should be in the, not running to win MVP, but he should get like consideration for like third or fourth place for the job he's done this season, where he had lost both of his receivers, and somehow the Bucks are in the playoffs. And it's been Baker, who's a lot of things, but a leader is one of them as well. And so he's in the playoffs, and he's hosting a playoff game. And this has potential to be a fun game where both teams are going up and down the field and very little defense is being played. And this is going to be a very not super deep answer, but I like the Bucks to beat the Commanders just because of the quarterback play. I trust Baker in that offense more so than I trust anything else and anyone else on the Commanders. And I think that the Commanders are a really good story, but I just don't think that they have enough to go into Tampa Bay and beat the Bucks. I think it's going to be too much to ask of Jaden Daniels to do that, especially when they don't have a really good running game, and Jaden Daniels has shown that he can be affected by some of the shots he can take while running. And I think if you're the Bucks, one of the part of the game plan has to be, if Jaden Daniels is going to run and you can get a good hit on him, do it, because he has shown over the course of the season that he will slow down if he gets hit, and he becomes less willing to do so. And so I like the Bucks. I like the Bucks to take care of business at home and keep it moving. And the Monday night game, because the NFL has to keep cashing checks, and so that's why we have a Monday night game in the playoffs. Vikings, Rams. The Rams, who could have won and played the Commanders. Instead, McVay shut everybody down and said, nope, we want rest. And so give us whoever. We just want rest. Versus the Vikings, who were riding high, and now they're kind of wounded. And so the conversation this week is it's going to be either people are all out on the Vikings and Sam Darnold is who we thought he was, and the Rams are the scariest team in the NFC and nobody wants to play them, and you know, that's going to be the one conversation. The other side of the conversation will be the Rams are not ready yet. Their defense is young and they can be got. Matthew Stafford throws balls to the other team, and he is prone to throwing passes that should be intercepted. Just ask the Cardinals as how many interceptions they dropped, and the Niners how many interceptions they dropped. And so the Vikings, you would think, would be able to take advantage of that in the secondary. The Vikings also play very aggressive style. And against Matthew Stafford, who throws the ball and gets rid of the ball really fast, that's going to be important, because can you get to Matthew Stafford? Can you hit him and make him uncomfortable where you throw off his timing? And I think the Vikings have the scheme to do so. On the other side, you get McVay, who has his weapons, who Puka is healthy-ish. Kyron Williams is coming off of a rest week. And you got Kupp, and you got an offense that is capable of scoring a lot of points. But it's also an offense that's either feast or famine. And so in a game like this, you look at the coaches. And on one side, you get KOC, Kevin O'Connell, who's done a phenomenal job, who seems to have the pulse of his entire team, and who seems to know what he's doing in every single aspect of the game when it comes to his team, and knows how to manage every single aspect of that game. On the other side, you get Sean McVay, who is one of the best coaches in all of football, who is able to just stay in the game and dial up plays and just put his team over and over again in positions to be successful. And so in a game like this, I don't look at the quarterbacks, I don't look at the offenses, I don't look at the defenses, I look at the coaches. And for me, Sean McVay is who I want calling games like these. I trust Sean McVay in these positions to put the Rams over and over again in situations where they will be able to succeed. And part of it also is Sean McVay will not have in the back of his mind, what if Matthew Stafford can't get it done the way KOC might have with Sam, with Darnold. And that's what this game comes on to. Because the coaches will call the games, and as the games continue to develop and unfold, coaches begin to show you what they think of their team. And at no point throughout that game will Sean McVay be nervous to call something and trust Matthew Stafford with it. But there could come a time where Sam Darnold isn't trusted by KOC to come to execute. And we'll see that throughout the game. And because of that, I'm picking the Rams. Even though I see why the Vikings would be favored. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Vikings won that game. I honestly, if I didn't have to think, I'd pick the Vikings too. As a biased, diehard 49er fan, I want the Vikings to win. That's who I want. That's who I'll be rooting for. But who do I think is going to win? I think the Rams are going to win. Because that team will have more opportunities because of their coach to win the game over and over again. So that's where we're at. So these are the picks. Chargers, Ravens, Bills, Eagles, Bucks, Rams. We'll see where we're at. We'll see how it all ends up. But that's what I think about the wild card weekend as it ends. I want to do a little 49er corner. As the season is wrapped up, it was a very disastrous season for the Niners. 6-11, last place in the NFL, in the NFC West, not in the NFL. 11th pick in this next season's draft. Failed season. This season's a failure because the Niners had expectation to make the playoffs, win the division, possibly make the NFC Championship game, and possibly make and win the Super Bowl. This season was an utter disaster, and we can point to Brandon Ayuk's long, very public, very nasty holdout. We can point to Trent Williams doing the same. We can point to Ricky Pearsall getting shot. We can point to CMC never being able to get a full run this season. And we can point to all these things. We can point to Purdy getting hurt over the course of the season. We can point to all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, this was a disaster and a failure for the 49ers. Now, I've said before, and I'll continue to say it, you don't fire Shanahan. You don't fire Lynch. You kind of throw this season away and kind of forget it happened, and you keep it moving. Now, you bring back George Kittle. Bring him back. You have to. You do anything and everything in your power to make sure that guy retires a 49er. Juice is probably gone. Ward is probably gone. But you bring back George, and you bring back Greenlaw if he's going to be healthy. Because Greenlaw's the heart and soul of the 49ers. Not defense, the team. You hopefully bring back Leonard Floyd, who I think he's under one more year. You get rid of Hargrave and his contract. Maybe you trade for Max Crosby or someone like that. You reinforce the offensive line in the draft, free agency. You lock up Purdy, and you do it early so it doesn't drag out. You fire the defensive coordinator and bring in somebody who's going to get the best of that team and of those guys. Fred Warner is a leader of leaders, and so he came out and said that he puts in all the players. The players didn't give him the proper, didn't help him out. Didn't, and that's on the coach. And it sucks that the players didn't help Sorensen out, but it is what it is. So you got to go and get somebody. And then you fire the special teams coach and you bring in somebody else. You get rid of Moody and you bring in a real a confident kicker. And so the 49ers will be fine. I think the 49ers are going to be in great shape to make a run at the Super Bowl next season. But in terms of where we're at, Kyle Shanahan had a horrible season. A lot of games that he, with his play calling, and cost us games. With his lack of willingness to be aggressive, cost us games. With his lack of willingness to step up and get in dudes' faces, cost us games. And the fact that he wasn't willing to get on Sorensen more, cost us games. And so we didn't see the innovative Shanahan until the Lions game. And it wasn't until the Lions game that the 49er offense looked like the 49er offense. And that's on Kyle Shanahan. And so I think the Super Bowl hangover was very real, and it hung over this team. The tragedies to Trent Williams and Ward hung on this team. And you could just sense that the shooting of Ricky Pearsall hung on this team. Anytime the last season was talked about, you could just tell this team was still going through it. You could tell the Greenlaw loss was huge. And so when you think of this season, it is a failure of a season, but it's also an opportunity to grow and learn. Shanahan's coming back, Lynch is coming back, CMC's coming back, Purdy's coming back, George Kittle better come back. Debo's probably not going to come back, and that's okay. Brandon Ayuk will be back. Ricky Pearsall will be back. The 49ers are going to be okay. They're going to be fine. It was just the season from hell. And as a fan watching all 17 games, I didn't enjoy it. I don't want to see a 49er on the Madden cover again. Ever. That's where I'm at. At least not until we win a Super Bowl. That's where we're at. My final thought. My final thought is what I started the whole pod with. We should have New Year's, the first day of real, official New Year should be the Monday after New Year's. That's when you start your goals. That's when you begin your New Year's resolutions, because we need a time. So that's my final thought. Let's think about it. Let's apply it. If you have goals, pursue them. Be diligent. Be consistent. And if you fail one day, guess what? Every day is a new day. So pick up, get up, and start all over the next day. Let's be better. Let's be consistent. And let's not be afraid to strive for greatness. Let's do that. So that's the pod. So the Niners are out, and as a Niner fan, I'm rooting for the Bills. That's what I'll be rooting for. I want Josh Allen to win his title, and that's what I will be cheering for as a Niner fan. The Bills and Harbaugh. That's where I'm at. So I'll talk to you later. All right, that's the podcast. Thank you to Angel. Thank you to Triumph. Thank you to you for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Arrows Up. You can follow us on YouTube, the Arrows Up YouTube channel. So please subscribe there. Follow us on Instagram. I will talk to you again on Wednesday. Christian Worldview Wednesdays, stewardship. That's what we'll be talking about. And so you can listen to this pod anywhere you get pods. So please rate, review, and subscribe. So that's the pod. Thank you so much. I will talk to you later. So with that, we got roll call. We got Hala Madrid wins 5-0 today. Shout out to them. They took care of business, and in the Copa del Rey, which is not always the easiest competition for Real Madrid, but they took care of business today. They beat Minera, who have part-time Cop as their coach, 5-0. Shout out to them. So Hala Madrid, glory, glory, Man United. We stare down Liverpool at Anfield and almost pulled out the victory. We're going to be fine with Ruben Amorim. It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay. Viva la Máquina as the season comes back on Saturday. We have, let's go Lakers. Tough loss versus the Rockets, but I like how the Lakers are playing over the last 10 games or so. Pretty encouraging, and we'll see just how they're able to end the season. If we're able to not be in the play-in, that'd be awesome. So looking forward to that. And what else we got? I think that's it. So I will talk to you again later on Wednesday, and enjoy the sports. Wemby got dunked on today, which is not really a dunk on, but just he happened to get there late. Kobe White dunked it, and you know how these things go. So that's what happened. And for the very last time this season, a very sad but very proud and a very faithful, because the 49ers are out. There's no more 49er regular football reason to talk about them, but I will, because that's my team. But I'm very sad, and we're putting away for 8 months, I think. Bang bang, Niner gang. The Errors of Podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings, a flooring company that specializes in epoxy flooring and concrete resurfacing systems. They speak Spanish. They're in the LA area, and they are an amazing company to work with. They have awesome customer service, and they give you honest quotes with great work, and I couldn't recommend them enough. So if you use the promo code ARROWSUP, you get a 15% off on your next project. So call them, reach out to them. You can find them on the internet, triumphcoatingsca.com, and you can request a free quote and all that fun stuff. You can follow them on Instagram, triumph_coatings, and they do speak Spanish, and they do great work, like I said. So check them out. Promo code ARROWSUP, 15% off your next project.